The crystal tumbler trembles in Alexander Blackwood's grip as the numbers blur across his laptop screen. 40 million. Gone. Like smoke through his fingers. 3 decades of careful construction crumbling in real time. Sir, her voice cuts through the chaos in his mind like silk through steel. The board meeting. Cancel it. He doesn't look up from the screen. Can't bear to see the carefully composed expression she wears when the world is ending. When his world is ending. Sophia Reeves has been his executive assistant for 2 years, 3 months, and 14 days. He knows this because he counts everything: profits, losses, the precise number of seconds she pauses before speaking when she disagrees with him, but won't say so aloud. 2.7 seconds, always. Today, there's no pause at all. No. The word hangs between them like a challenge. Alexander's head snaps up, finding her standing in the doorway of his corner office, 30 floors above Manhattan's chaos. Her dark hair is perfectly arranged, despite the fact that they've been here since dawn, dealing with the Singapore disaster. Her blue eyes the color of deep water just before a storm meet his without flinching. What did you say? She steps inside, closing the door with a soft click that somehow sounds like a gunshot in the silence. Her heels tap against the marble floor as she approaches his desk, each step deliberate, measured, dangerous. I said no, Alexander. You're not canceling the board meeting. His name on her lips does something to his chest, tightens it like a fist around his lungs. She's never called him Alexander before. It's always been Mr. Blackwood, delivered in that crisp, professional tone that's driven him to distraction for 27 months and 14 days. But not today. Today, something has shifted. They'll crucify me in there. He pushes back from his desk, running both hands through his hair. The motion pulls his shirt tight across his shoulders, and he catches her eyes following the movement before she looks away. Heat flickers low in his stomach. Even now, even with everything falling apart, his body responds to her like a tuning fork struck against crystal. Then we make sure they don't have the ammunition. She moves around his desk. Wounded. She gets so bold and leans over his shoulder to study the screen. Her scent envelops him, jasmine and something uniquely her. Something that makes his hands clench against his thighs to keep from reaching for her. The Singapore contracts can be renegotiated, she continues, her breath warm against his ear. Johnson Industries is hemorrhaging money on their textile division. They need this deal as much as we do. She's right. She's always right. Which is why he pays her more than most of his vice presidents, and why half the board thinks she has too much influence over him. They have no idea how much influence she actually has. How do you know about Johnson's textile losses? A smile plays at the corner of her mouth, the kind of smile that suggests secrets. I make it my business to know everything that affects you. The words land like a physical touch. Everything that affects you, not the company, him. Thunder rolls outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the first drops of rain streak the glass. Like tears, the storm that's been threatening all morning has finally arrived, matching the tempest in his chest. Sophia. Her name feels foreign on his tongue, intimate in a way that makes her breath catch. Why are you doing this? She turns to face him fully now, close enough that he can see the flecks of gold in her eyes, close enough that if he shifted forward just slightly, their knees would touch. Because, she says, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, sometimes the person falling needs someone to catch them before they hit the ground. The space between them crackles with electricity that has nothing to do with the storm outside. Her hand hovers near his shoulder, not quite touching, but the heat of her skin reaches him anyway. His phone buzzes against the desk, shattering the moment. A text from his wife, Helen. Something about tonight's charity gala. Something that feels like it belongs to another lifetime. Sophia steps back, the professional mask sliding back into place, but not before he catches the flash of something raw and hungry in her eyes. The board meeting is in 20 minutes, she says, straightening her skirt with hands that aren't quite steady. I'll prepare the Johnson file. She's almost to the door when his voice stops her. Sophia. She doesn't turn around, but her spine stiffens in a way that tells him she's listening with every cell in her body. Thank you. The words are inadequate, but they're all he has. For now, the board meeting is a bloodbath disguised as civilized conversation, Alexander watches 12 faces around the mahogany table, each one carefully neutral, each one calculating how his downfall might benefit them. Through it all, Sophia sits at the smaller table behind him, her presence like an anchor in a hurricane. Every time doubt creeps up his spine, every time Morrison or Chen lands a particularly cutting blow, he feels her there, steady, certain, unshakable. When it's over, when the sharks have circled and found no blood in the water thanks to her Johnson Industries research, the room empties in disappointed murmurs. All except Sophia. Well, she says, gathering her notes with the same precision she applies to everything. That went better than expected. Alexander loosens his tie, exhaustion hitting him like a physical weight. Better, Morrison practically accused me of embezzlement, but he couldn't prove anything because there's nothing to prove. She stands, smoothing her pencil skirt, and something in the gesture makes his mouth go dry. Besides, you handled him perfectly. That thing you did with the quarterly projections, we handled him. This was your strategy, Sophia, your research, your... He stops, catches himself before he says something that can't be taken back. My what? The question hangs between them like a dare. The boardroom is empty now, just them and the ghost of victory, and the space feels too small, too intimate for what's building in his chest. Your brilliance, he says finally, the words feeling like confession. I couldn't have done this without you. Something flickers across her face, too quick to name, but slow enough to heat his blood. You don't need me, Alexander, you never have, don't I? The question escapes before he can stop it, raw and honest and completely inappropriate for a conversation between employer and employee. But they stop being just employer and employee somewhere between the thunder outside his office and the way she'd breathed his name. She sets her files down on the table, each movement deliberate, controlled. When she looks at him, her professional composure is cracking at the edges. What are you asking me? He should step back. He should thank her for her hard work and send her home to whatever life she leads outside these walls, the life he's never allowed himself to think about, because thinking about Sophia's life means thinking about whether there's room in it for someone like him. Instead, he steps closer. I'm asking, his voice catches. I'm asking why you stayed. I told you. Someone has to catch you when you fall. That's not what I mean. Another step. Close enough now to see the rapid flutter of her pulse at the base of her throat. Why? Do you care if I fall? The silence stretches between them, taut as a wire. Outside, the storm has intensified, rain lashing against the windows in sheets. The fluorescent lights flicker once, twice, then steady. You really want to know her? Voice is barely above a whisper, but it cuts through him like a blade. He nods, not trusting his voice, because watching you is like watching someone hold lightning in their bare hands. She takes a step toward him, closing the distance until they're breathing the same air. Because you care about every person in this building more than you care about yourself, and you think nobody notices. Because when you laugh, really laugh, not that thing you do for the cameras, it's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Her words hit him like physical blows, each one landing somewhere vital and tender. Sophia, because, she continues, her eyes never leaving his, in 2 years, 3 months, and 14 days, you've never once looked at me the way you look at other women. Like I'm decoration. Like I'm replaceable. You look at me like what? Like you see me. The admission breaks something open in his chest. He reaches for her without thinking, his hands finding her waist, and she doesn't pull away. Her skin is warm through the thin fabric of her blouse, and he can feel her trembling, or maybe that's him. You want to know why I stayed? He whispers, his forehead almost touching hers. Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen something worth saving. Her breath catches, and for a moment, the world narrows to this, her hands fisted in his shirt, his thumbs tracing small circles against her ribs, the space between them charged with 2 years of careful distance finally crumbling. The elevator dings in the hallway outside, the sound cutting through the moment like a blade. Voices in the corridor, the cleaning crew making their evening rounds. They spring apart, the spell broken, but not destroyed. Sophia's cheeks are flushed, her hair slightly mussed from where his fingers had unconsciously tangled in it. She looks beautiful and dangerous and completely off limits. I should go, she whispers, not moving. Yes, he agrees, not stepping back. The voices fade down the hallway, but the damage is done. The moment has passed, leaving behind only the memory of heat and the promise of something that can't be taken back. She gathers her files with hands that shake slightly, and he lets her, because what else can he do? He's married. She works for him. There are 1,000 reasons why this is impossible, but as she reaches the door, she turns back one last time. Alexander, yes, don't fall apart on me now. I'm not done catching you yet. The door closes behind her with a soft click, leaving him alone with the storm and the echo of her promise. The rain hasn't stopped in 3 days. It drums against Alexander's office windows, like restless fingers, matching the rhythm of his pulse every time Sophia enters the room, which is often because the Singapore crisis has spawned a dozen smaller emergencies, each one requiring her particular brand of calm efficiency. They haven't talked about what happened in the boardroom. They move around each other with careful politeness, professional distances measured in heartbeats and held breath. But the awareness is there, humming between them like electricity waiting for lightning. It's nearly midnight when she brings him the revised contracts, her heels clicking softly on the marble floors of the empty office. Everyone else went home hours ago, but here they are. To people pretending they're not orbiting each other like binary stars. The Johnson terms are better than I hoped, she says, settling into the chair across from his desk. Her voice carries the exhaustion they're both feeling, but underneath it is something else. Something that makes his hands tighten on his pen. Good. He doesn't look up from the papers. Afraid of what she'll see in his eyes. We'll need every advantage we can get. Alexander. The way she says his name stops his pen mid-signature. When he finally meets her gaze, he finds her studying him with an expression that's part concern, part something more dangerous. When's the last time you went home? The question catches him off guard. Yesterday. Day before yesterday. You've been sleeping on the couch in your office for a week. It's not an accusation, just a statement of fact delivered with the kind of gentle precision that undoes him. Helen called 3 times today. The mention of his wife sits between them like a wall of ice. Helen, with her charity galas and her perfect smile and her complete inability to see past the surface of things. Helen, who would have told him to cancel the board meeting, to cut his losses and run. She's concerned about the charity event next week. Sophia continues, her voice carefully neutral. The one for children's literacy, right? The literacy thing. He rubs his eyes, trying to summon interest in a world that feels increasingly distant from this room, this woman, this moment. Can you, already handled. Your tuxedo is being pressed. The donation check is written, and I've briefed you on the key donors. She pauses, and something in her expression shifts. Though I'm not sure you should be making public appearances right now. The stress is, I'm fine. No, she says quietly, you're not. The truth in her words hits him like a physical blow. He's not fine. He hasn't been fine since the moment she stepped into his office 2 years ago and rearranged his entire world without permission. He's been holding on by threads, and she's the only one who seems to notice the fraying. Sophia. Her name is a whisper, a prayer, a question he doesn't know how to ask. She stands, moves around his desk with the fluid grace that's haunted his dreams, and does something she's never done before. She reaches for him. Her fingers find his temples, pressing gently against the tension headache that's been building for days. The touch is innocent, professional even, but it might as well be fire against his skin. You carry too much, she murmurs, her voice soft as silk. All of it. Everyone's expectations, everyone's needs. When do you get to just breathe? He closes his eyes, letting himself lean into her touch for just a moment. Just one stolen moment where he doesn't have to be Alexander Blackwood, billionaire CEO, husband, public figure. Where he can just be a man who's falling apart in the gentle hands of the woman who sees him. I don't know how, he admits, the words scraping his throat raw. Then let me teach you. Her hands slide down to cup his face, thumbs tracing the sharp line of his cheekbones, and when he opens his eyes, she's there. So close he can see the flecks of gold in her blue eyes, so close he can count her heartbeats in the flutter of her pulse. This is dangerous, he whispers. I know, if someone sees, there's no one here but us. Sophia, her name, is a warning, a plea, a last chance to step back from the edge they're both approaching. Instead, she leans closer, her forehead touching his, her breath warm against his lips. I know you feel it too, she whispers. This thing between us, it's been there from the beginning, hasn't it? That first day when I walked into your office, and you looked at me like you were going to ruin me. The admission tears out of him, raw and honest and completely damning. Like you were going to turn my world upside down, and I was going to let you. Was I wrong? No. His hands find her waist, pulling her closer until she's standing between his knees, until they're sharing air and heartbeats and the terrible, beautiful awareness that they're about to cross a line that can't be uncrossed. God, Sophia, you're destroying me. Good, she breathes, and then her lips are on his. The kiss is soft at first, tentative, a question more than a statement. But then he responds, his mouth moving against hers with 2 years of suppressed hunger, and she melts into him like she's been waiting her whole life for this moment. She tastes like coffee and rain and something uniquely her, something he's going to crave for the rest of his life. Her hands tangle in his hair, and he groans against her mouth, pulling her closer, deeper, until she's practically in his lap and he's drowning in the scent of jasmine and the soft sound she makes when he nips at her lower lip. The phone rings. They spring apart, breathing hard, staring at each other with wide eyes and kiss-swollen lips. The phone rings again, shrill and insistent in the silence. Don't answer it, Sophia whispers, her voice rough with desire. I have to. But he doesn't move, doesn't take his hands off her waist, doesn't step back from the edge of everything he's ever wanted and can't have. The phone stops ringing, then starts again. Reality crashes back like a cold wave. He's married. She's his employee. This is his office, his company, his reputation that would crumble if anyone found out. But when he looks at her, flushed and beautiful and still close enough to kiss again, none of that seems to matter. We can't, he says, hating every word. I know this can't happen again. I know. She steps back, smoothing her hair with shaking hands, and the space between them feels like an ocean. I should go, she says, not moving. Yes, the phone starts ringing again. This time, she reaches for it. Alexander Blackwood's office, she says, her voice perfectly professional despite the fact that her lips are still swollen from his kiss. Oh, Mrs. Blackwood. Yes, he's here. One moment, she holds out the phone, her eyes never leaving his face. When their fingers brush as he takes it, the small touch burns like a brand. Helen, he says into the phone, watching Sophia gather her things and walk toward the door. Yes, I'm sorry, working late again. Sophia pauses at the door, turns back. For just a moment, her lips form a single word, breathe. Then she's gone, and he's left alone with his wife's voice in his ear and the taste of jasmine on his lips. The charity gala is everything Helen loves, glittering chandeliers, designer gowns, and conversations that dance around meaning without ever touching it. Alexander moves through the crowd like a ghost, his tuxedo perfectly pressed, his smile perfectly practiced, his mind perfectly elsewhere. Sophia isn't here. She never attends his social functions, a boundary they've maintained religiously for 2 years, but her absence feels like a missing limb, especially after what happened in his office 3 nights ago, especially since she's been avoiding him ever since. Alexander, darling, you look tired. Helen appears at his elbow, resplendent in emerald silk that matches her eyes. She's beautiful in the way expensive things are beautiful, perfect, untouchable, and ultimately cold. Just work, he murmurs, accepting the scotch she presses into his hand. The Singapore situation is finally resolved. Oh, good. I was worried you might have to cancel our trip to Martha's Vineyard next month. She surveys the crowd with satisfaction, checking off mental boxes of social obligations fulfilled. Did you see that Pemberton donated 50,000? I told you. Inviting them would pay off. He nods, makes the appropriate responses, plays the role of devoted husband and successful businessman. But his mind is elsewhere, replaying the taste of jasmine and the sound Sophia made when he kissed her. The evening drags on. Speeches about literacy rates and educational funding wash over him. Like white noise, he's shaking hands with a senator. When his phone buzzes with a text, "We need to talk," the world tilts slightly on its axis. He excuses himself, steps onto a quiet balcony overlooking Central Park, and calls her before he can think better of it. "Sophia, what's wrong? Where are you?" Her voice sounds strange, strained in a way that sends ice through his veins. "The literacy gala." "What? I need to see you. Tonight, Sophia." "We agreed, Alexander." The way she says his name stops his protest cold. "Please, it's important." 20 minutes later, he's standing in the lobby of her apartment building, still wearing his tuxedo, having told Helen he had an emergency call with Tokyo. The doorman knows him. Apparently Sophia has mentioned him before and waves him toward the elevators without question. Her apartment is on the 15th floor, and his hands shake as he knocks. When she opens the door, the breath leaves his lungs in a rush. She's changed out of her usual business attire into jeans and a soft sweater that makes her eyes look impossibly blue. Her hair is loose around her shoulders, and she's not wearing makeup. She looks younger, more vulnerable, and absolutely breathtaking. "Thank you for coming," she says, stepping aside to let him in. Her apartment is nothing like he imagined. It's warm, lived in, full of books and soft lighting, and the kind of comfortable chaos that speaks of a real life being lived, so different from his own sterile penthouse with its designer furniture and perfect emptiness. "Sophia, about the other night, I'm pregnant." The words hit him like a physical blow. He actually staggers, and catches himself against her kitchen island. "What? I'm pregnant. Alexander, 8 weeks. Her voice is steady, matter of fact, but her hands shake as she pours herself a glass of water. "I went to the doctor today to confirm it." His mind reels, trying to process the impossibility of it. "But we kissed. We never, not yours." The words are quiet, almost apologetic, and they gut him more thoroughly than he has any right to feel. "There was someone else before. It ended badly, and I thought," she takes a shaky breath, "I thought I was being careful, but apparently not careful enough." Relief and disappointment were in his chest, neither one making sense given the circumstances. "Sophia, I don't understand. Why are you telling me this?" She sets down her water glass and turns to face him fully in the soft light of her kitchen. She looks fragile and fierce all at once. "Because I can't do this anymore, Alexander. This thing between us, this pretending that what happened the other night didn't change everything." She wraps her arms around herself, a protective gesture that makes his heart clench. "I'm going to have a baby. I need to make choices about my life, about what I want, about what's real and what's just fantasy." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I can't keep working for you." The words come out in a rush, like she's afraid she'll lose her nerve if she doesn't say them quickly. "I can't keep pretending that I don't." She stops, shakes her head. "It's not fair to either of us." The world seems to tilt off its axis. The thought of his days without her, his crises without her steady presence, his life without the woman who's become essential to his breathing, it's unthinkable. "No." The word tears out of him, raw and desperate. "Sophia, no, we can figure this out. We can." "Can what?" She laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Can continue stealing moments in empty boardrooms. Can keep pretending that you looking at me doesn't set me on fire. Can keep lying to ourselves that this is just professional attraction. I don't know." He's shouting now, his careful control finally snapping. "I don't know, but I know I can't lose you. Not now, not ever." The admission hangs between them like a live wire. She stares at him, her eyes wide, and something shifts in her expression. "Alexander, I love you." The words spill out of him like blood from a wound, impossible to take back. "I love the way you argue with me when you think I'm wrong. I love that you see through every wall I've ever built. I love that you make me want to be better than I am. I love you. And I know it's impossible and selfish and completely unfair to you, but I love you." Tears spill down her cheeks, and she takes a step toward him, then another. "You can't love me." She whispers, "You're married, you have a life, a reputation, responsibilities. None of that matters." He reaches for her, his hands cupping her face the way they did 3 nights ago. Nothing matters except this. You, us. There's no us, she says, but she doesn't pull away. There can't be. Then why are you crying? Because I love you too. The words break something open in both of them. Because I've loved you since the day I walked into your office and you looked at me like I was the answer to a question you didn't know you were asking. Because this baby, she places a hand on her still flat stomach, this baby is going to grow up without a father. And part of me is glad because it means I don't have to share my heart with anyone, except the man I can't have. He kisses her then, desperate and hungry and full of 2 years of suppressed longing. She melts into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, and for a moment the world narrows to this, her taste, her scent, the soft sound she makes when he deepens. The kiss. When they break apart, they're both breathing hard. What do we do now? She whispers against his mouth. I don't know, he admits. But I know I'm not letting you go, not without a fight. Outside, the city glitters with a million lights, each one a life, a choice, a crossroads. Inside her warm apartment, they hold each other like the world is ending, because in many ways it is. The Alexander Blackwood who walked into this building an hour ago no longer exists. In his place stands a man who's finally admitted that some things matter more than reputation, more than responsibility, more than the careful construction of a perfect life. Some things are worth burning the world down for. 6 weeks later, the scandal breaks on a Tuesday morning. Alexander is in his office, reading the press release Sophia helped him craft the night before, when his phone starts ringing. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, every gossip rag and business publication in the country, all wanting to know the same thing. Is it true that billionaire Alexander Blackwood is leaving his wife for his pregnant secretary? The answer is yes, but the story is more complicated than any headline could capture. Helen had taken the news exactly as he'd expected, with cold fury and an immediate call to her divorce attorney. The board had been predictably apoplectic, though Morrison's glee at his downfall had been somewhat tempered by the fact that Sophia's Johnson Industries strategy had saved the company millions. The media circus is exactly as brutal as anticipated. Photos of him and Sophia leaving her doctor's appointment, her hand resting on the small bump that's finally starting to show, his arm protectively around her waist. Pictures of Helen looking perfectly composed outside her lawyer's office. Headlines that range from scurrilous to sympathetic, depending on the publication. But none of that matters when Sophia walks into his office, their office now, since she's agreed to stay on as his partner in both business and life, carrying 2 cups of the herbal tea her doctor recommended and wearing the smile that still stops his heart. How are you holding up? She asks, settling into the chair across from his desk with the careful movements of a woman for months pregnant. Better now that you're here. It's become his standard answer, and it's true every time he says it. Morrison called twice this morning. Apparently the board wants to discuss my situation. Let them discuss. She sets down her tea and reaches for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his in a gesture that's become as natural as breathing. The Johnson deal closed yesterday. Our Singapore contracts are more profitable than ever. The company stock is up 12% since news broke about us. Apparently scandal sells. Apparently authenticity sells. She brings their joined hands to her lips, pressing a soft kiss to his knuckles. You're not hiding anymore, Alexander. For the first time in your adult life, you're exactly who you are, with exactly who you want to be with. People respond to that kind of truth. He studies her face, still amazed that she's here, that she's his, that this impossible thing they've built together is real. The past 6 weeks have been a whirlwind of lawyers and press conferences, of moving her into his penthouse and learning the rhythm of a life built on honesty instead of obligation. Any regrets? He asks, a question that's become a ritual between them. Only one. She stands, moves around the desk to perch on the edge, close enough that he can rest his hand on the gentle curve of her belly. I regret waiting so long to tell you how I felt. We could have had so much more time. We have all the time in the world now, do we? Something flickers across her face, a shadow he can't quite read. Alexander, there's something I need to tell you. The serious tone in her voice sends a chill down his spine. What is it? She takes a breath, her hand covering his on her stomach. The baby's father called yesterday. Every muscle in his body goes rigid. They've never talked about the other man, the one whose timing gave them the push they needed to finally act on what they'd been feeling. Alexander has tried not to think about him, tried not to let jealousy eat at him for the fact that someone else will always have a biological claim to the child he's already begun to think of as his. What did he want? Custody. The word hits like a punch to the solar plexus. Partial custody. He's gotten sober, apparently, has a job, a steady life. His lawyer thinks he has a case. The world goes very quiet around the edges. And what do you think? I think, she says carefully, that a child deserves to know their biological father if that father is genuinely trying to be a good person. She pauses, her eyes searching his face. But I also think that biology doesn't automatically make someone a parent. Love does. Commitment does. Being there every day, through every crisis and every triumph that makes someone a parent. Sophia, I'm terrified. She continues, the words tumbling out in a rush. I'm terrified that if he gets partial custody, you'll decide this is too complicated, that you'll realize you didn't sign up for co-parenting with a stranger, for custody, battles and awkward handoffs and all the messy reality of what our life is going to look like. He stares at her, this woman who's turned his world upside down in the best possible way, who's carrying another man's child and somehow made him love that child fiercely, before it's even born, who's strong enough to build an empire and vulnerable enough to fear losing him over complications neither of them could have foreseen. Stand up, he says quietly. What? Stand up, Sophia. She slides off the desk, confusion clear on her face, and he moves to stand in front of her. Then, while she watches with wide eyes, he drops to one knee. Alexander, what are you? I don't have a ring, he says, reaching for her hands. I should have a ring. I should have planned this better. Should have. Alexander, marry me. The words come out raw, desperate, completely sincere. Not because you're pregnant. Not because of the scandal or the media circus or what anyone else thinks. Marry me because I love you. Because I want to wake up next to you every day for the rest of my life. Because I want to be there for your midnight cravings and your labor pains and the first time this baby smiles. Because I want to teach them to read and worry about their first day of school and embarrass them at their high school graduation. Tears are streaming down her face now, and her hands are shaking in his. Marry me because I don't care whose DNA this baby has there going to be ours. Marry me because whatever custody battles come, whatever complications arise, whatever the world throws at us, we're stronger together than apart. Marry me because 2 years, 3 months and 47 days ago, you walked into my office and I knew, somehow I knew, that you were going to be the love of my life. Yes, she whispers, and then louder. Yes, yes, Alexander, yes. He surges to his feet, catching her in his arms and spinning her round while she laughs through her tears. When he sets her down, she cups his face in her hands. I love you, she says, the words clear and strong and completely certain. I love you for seeing me, for catching me, for choosing me every single day even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. He kisses her then, soft and deep and full of promise, while outside their office windows the city buzzes with the news of his downfall. But he's never felt less fallen, never felt more like the man he was meant to be. When they break apart, she rests her forehead against his, her hands splayed across his chest. So, she says, grinning up at him, what do we do now? He grins back, his hands settling protectively over their child. Now we build something beautiful, together. Outside, the world keeps spinning, full of judgment and gossip and people who think they understand what love looks like. Inside their office, to people who found each other against all odds hold tight to what they've built and prepare to face whatever comes next. Together the way they always should have been.